there, but with a lot of folks outside of Washington, it does. Because really, for any of the creative, reforms that we advanced, we really had to essentially work around most of the career staff because there were very few who would actually get the work done that needed to be done.
So that's Betsy DeVos. There shouldn't be a Department of Education. Some people in the chat are saying, well, why didn't she say that before she took the job? No, but that's why she got the job. That's why she was the head of the Department of Education. She was chosen in the same way that the heads of HUD and the EPA were chosen, because they do not agree with, they will not tolerate the missions of those agencies. They're there to stop it from working, which is a stopgap before it's actually gonna be just destroyed. So her, a former head of the Department of Education, thinking that it shouldn't exist, that's bad enough. The fact that in the future it might not exist is worse. You have politicians like Lauren Boebert tweeting in response to that video, I signed on to legislation with Thomas Massie saying exactly that. We need to get this done. And yes, they did that. There were a number of co-signers, Boebert and Matt Gaetz and all that. And it seems insane to get rid of the Department of Education. But if they get the majority in Congress and possibly the Senate, which they are likely to do this year, if they take over the White House, which it seems like there's a pretty good chance that's gonna happen in 2024, why wouldn't they do that? What would stop them from literally just destroying it, sending education back to the states? Now, maybe they will try to convince you that that's a good thing. Then states will be freed up to do whatever they want. Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever been sent back to the states and that resulted in it being better? Like literally anywhere, anything? Your rights, when those are sent back to the states, do you end up with more or less of them? No, that's what they're gonna do with education. Lauren Boebert cannot wait for the Department of Education to be destroyed, for states to be freed up to pull funding. They don't want educated kids, and they have the means to make that so. Yasmin, what do you think?
Oh yeah, educated people are problematic people for the GOP, especially because the more educated you are on something, the more critical thinking you have about something, the more you're able to come to your own conclusions, and the less likely you are to fall for certain propaganda, right? And a lot of the GOP, almost their entire platform these days, seems to be based on propaganda, right? And it seems to be based on the idea that you live here, but there's a whole world out there that you don't know about, and so you should be afraid of it, right? Not that you should want to learn more about it, but that you should be afraid of it. And that's a problem because people who vote based on fear tend to vote for the GOP, right? They're afraid of immigrants, they're afraid of radical free thinkers on the left, they're afraid of, communism. I don't even know what they're afraid of anymore at this point, but it seems to be a lot, right? Through education, you are exposed to various different people. Just from going to college, you meet so many different people, right? Just from being out of your hometown, you meet people, you see things, you have experiences that help you to understand the world a little bit better. But even before college, even in high schools and in junior highs and elementary schools, you're exposed to different people that you have to learn how to interact with, and you have to learn how to understand, or else you can't interact with them, right? You can't function within this bubble that you have in your own home with your own family or in your own church or something like that. And we've seen this happening pretty consistently over the past few years with the GOP trying to demonize public education, right? They're pushing for charter schools, they're pushing for private schools and Christian schools and homeschooling, all these things to get people out of the public school system. And instead of trying to bolster the public school system, as we should be doing, because Americans already perform way worse than other countries in Europe, other developed nations similar to ours, right? With similar demographics. Our students are already the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that kind of stuff. Instead of trying to remedy that issue and to understand why Americans are less educated than our counterparts across the sea, they're trying to make it worse. So
exactly, yeah. And by the way, they don't have to get rid of the Department of Education to do that. She was meeting up at this conservative education summit. They're figuring out how to take over school boards to destroy them from within. So yes, they do want to do it top down, but they're a couple of years into taking over all these school boards. So get active in your area. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.